Hey everyone, welcome back to Without Code. This is Ashton again with another tutorial video. Today we're going to do a deep dive into a very powerful new widget we have called our Mega Menu. Now a Mega Menu widget is one that we've gotten a ton of requests for from customers. It's a widget that we felt was very important to really get right by making it as powerful and flexible as it could possibly be. We've actually invested more development time into this widget than any other widget we've ever built. Taking a look at our demo here, we can see there are a lot of possibilities. And here on the demo page, we have a variety of different examples to view, showing just the beginning of the vast amount of ways that this widget can be customized. You can create multi-level drop-downs, columns with automatic or manual control of the items in the columns, headings which can be used as category separators, icons which can be attached to many different types, cards, which can be used with images to display images as categories, and so much more. Now, as you might imagine, this widget is fairly complex. We would still suggest that you use the standard navigation links menu for simpler sites that don't specifically need the features found in Mega Menu, but typically you'll know when you need to use the Mega Menu widget. Now keep in mind that this video covers the desktop version of the widget, and the mobile layout of your site will use the Mega Menu mobile widget. It's a separate widget, and it must be set up separately. But we'll discuss that a bit more at the end of the video. There's a lot to cover with this widget, so this video will be more of a general overview where we'll discuss the primary widget options, as well as take a look at how to create and customize menu items. Be sure to check out the other videos in the Mega Menu series where we set up some cool menu examples from scratch to show you what's possible. Let's switch over to the builder. I've got the pet store template here, and I've already added a bunch of pages to simulate a store with a lot of product categories. Now our existing navigation menu is kind of clunky. It's got a lot of categories in the main nav, and it wraps here into two rows. So what we'll do is replace the standard navigation with a Mega Menu, which will allow us to place a lot of the categories and items within a larger drop-down submenu. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to temporarily add a row where I can drop the Mega Menu widget. So I'm just going to go to the row options for this first one here below the header, and we're going to select Add and then Row Above. Now let me jump into our widgets library. We'll grab our Mega Menu widget and drop it into this new row. Now once we do that, we can see that the Mega Menu auto-populates all of our pages. It has also inherited the global font on the site, but would need a couple styling tweaks to match the old navigation. But we'll look at styling more towards the end of this video. I'm going to go ahead and delete the original navigation since we won't be needing it anymore. And now I'm going to drag our Mega Menu up into the header in place of the old navigation. I created this row temporarily just so that you could see the new and old navigation side by side, but feel free to just delete the existing navigation on your site and drop Mega Menu right into the header. Now I'm going to quickly center align the menu so that it's like the old menu by going to Design, Top Level Container Styling, and Menu Alignment. Perfect. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, this has been our biggest widget build ever, and you'll see why when you see how many options are here in this panel. At the top here, we see that it says Global Menu Configuration. These settings all apply to the entire menu globally, and this will be important to keep in mind as we get into the menu item overrides. This option here for drop-down mode. Drop-downs are the sub-menus that appear when we have child items for a main navigation parent item. And we have a choice of two drop-down modes. If we go with predefined width, this allows us to manually control the width of the drop-down, or we can go full width. This creates a full browser width drop-down. We'll set this to predefined width for now. And then drop-down width. This allows us to set the width of the drop-down in pixels. And this setting, of course, will only be seen when drop-down mode is set to predefined width. Drop-down content alignment. This aligns the drop-down window with the parent item. So keep in mind that this does not align the text in the drop-down, but the drop-down window itself. Distribution mode for items in columns. A big feature of Mega Menu is the columns and your ability to control what is in individual columns. This option allows you to choose automatic distribution or manual distribution for content within those columns. Choose manual distribution if you need to control the items within the columns or if there are differing amounts of content within the columns. Choose automatic if you would like the content automatically distributed among columns. Child item columns, another important setting, and this tells the widget how many columns that you need. Link target. You're going to use this to control whether you'd like the links to open in the same tab or a new tab. Standard behavior here is definitely to open in the same tab. The next few settings allow us to use custom icons for top-level and sub-level parent indicator icons. Our widget uses Font Awesome for all fonts. Their widget library has nearly 8,000 icons, so there's plenty to choose from, but for now, we'll leave these with the default icons. Now let's scroll down here to Menu Item Overrides. Menu item overrides are the foundation of building a mega menu. Menu item overrides allow us to connect to a page on the site and display it in a certain way within the menu. We can use these to style certain pages differently than other pages in the menu. And to take it a step further, menu item overrides are also how you create header text, column separators, image cards, icons, and more. We're going to use pages to create all of these elements as well. Now you may be wondering how a page on your site becomes something like a column separator, which isn't an actual page on your site, but something that is only a component of the menu. Now our entire team has been playing with the Mega Menu widget internally for quite a while now. We've been testing it, looking for bugs, building demos, and recreating menu examples from real-world sites that customers have sent us when requesting this widget. And the thing that our team has found is the more you work with the widget, the more comfortable it's going to feel. One of the more challenging things to grasp at first are these menu item overrides. But once you wrap your mind around how they actually work, it's actually really easy to build out big and complex menus. So let me jump in and I'm going to show you how this works. Let me click Add Item Override. And we see a new menu here on the right for this one, and these first two settings are very important. First is Linked to Page. That allows us to connect our menu item override with a page. And then Item Type is the type of item we're going to display. So when we look at the options, we see regular, column separator, heading, card, social icons, or contact details. Now, before we start setting up individual menu item overrides, let's discuss what we'd like to improve with our existing site navigation by replacing it with the Mega Menu widget. So in our old pre-existing menu on this site, we've got so many product categories in the top level of the menu that the menu text was actually wrapping to a second row. What I'd like to do is create one main dropdown called Products and place all of the product categories within that as separate columns. The different columns will have differing numbers of items within them, so we'll need to control the number of columns as well as the number of items within the columns. So let's start by creating a new products parent page, and we can do that by going to Pages, and we'll add a new blank page and title it Products. And then let's slide this all the way up to sit right on top of all of the product category pages. Perfect. Now, as we can see, the products page has been added to the menu, but we want this to be the parent item for a big dropdown. So we'll move all of the product categories into child positions of the product page. One at a time here, and we'll make sure that they're all positioned just below the products page like so. Great. Okay, so now we've reorganized the menu structure, but we may not see the changes in the menu yet. And when that happens, we just need to refresh the page. The builder will not refresh automatically as we make changes to the page ordering. So remember this tip, if you've updated the page ordering, just give the browser a refresh to update the ordering. Great. And this is already looking a lot better. All of our product categories are in one products dropdown, and this makes our menu look more compact and the text isn't wrapping anymore. But we still don't have the columns we wanted. So let's jump back into the menu item overrides. And what we want to do now is make some settings specific to this product's dropdown. So for the menu item override we pulled up a few moments ago, we'll connect it to the products page using the linked to page setting here. And for item type, we'll leave it as regular. Now, as we can see, we have a ton of options here, and many of these are the same as what we saw in the global menu configuration settings earlier, but these, of course, will only apply to the products item. So for this products dropdown, let's keep this set to a predefined width. We'll set the dropdown width to 900 to give the columns enough space. And then we'll set the child item columns count to 4. And we can see some other cool features in here like subtitles, images, and icons, but we'll leave those alone for now. Let's give this a preview. And we can now see that we have 4 columns for the products dropdown. And this is great, but each product category within has its own child menu, and I think this would look nicer to get rid of those individual child menus and just have all of the product categories on display in the main products dropdown. And this would be more of a classic mega menu way to go. So we'll make some adjustments in the pages menu. All of these individual categories within dog toys, cat toys, nutrition, and medications will be adjusted so they're not child items, and we can do that by simply dragging them to the left to line up with their original parent items. Now I'm going to go ahead and speed this up for the sake of time, but without too much effort, we can completely restructure this to better suit our mega menu. Great. We'll refresh to capture the page structure changes, and let's preview it again. And this looks better. We've got all of the product categories in their own columns, and you don't have to open any second-level menus to access those. But it's hard to visually understand the categories now, but we can fix this by turning our categories into headings. We can make those bold so that they stand out at the top of each column. So let's create 4 new menu item overrides, 1 for each heading. Perfect. I'll start with the first one. And we'll set the linked page to dog toys, and we'll set the item type to heading. And we'll do the same thing on the second one for cat toys. Again for nutrition. And finally for medications. Perfect. Okay, so we've connected each category heading with the heading type, and since we wanted to bold the header text, we can do that in the design settings. So we'll go to design, we'll go to drop-down heading item type, and we'll just set the heading text style to bold. And this is all we need to do because this styling will then apply to all of the headings that we've created. So let's preview again. And we can now see that the heading text really pops nicely. Awesome. Okay, so now I want to talk about a few menu item overrides that are a little less straightforward. Column separators are a really good one to discuss. So say we're adding a few more product categories. So I'm going to make 2 new product categories for our medications category, which I can do by going to our Pages tab, and we're going to add 2 more. We'll add a blank page and title it Anxiety, and we'll add another one and title it Liver Care. And let's refresh the builder. Now when we preview, we can see that our columns are messed up now. That's because the items in the columns have been placed automatically, and we just happen to have the number of product categories that's sorted perfectly for the column count. But now that we've added 2 more categories under medications, that column has more than the others, and the sort is not correct for our columns. So to fix this, we'll use manual column sorting and use column separators. So first off, let's turn on manual columns by setting the distribution mode for items in columns option in the products menu item override to manual. Now we're going to create column separators. Technically, we only need to create 1 to separate the medications column, but as a best practice, we will create column separators for all of the columns. This way, whenever we add new pages or categories, we can be certain that they're all going to be kept in the proper columns. So we're going to create 3 column separators since they land between the 4 columns. Now remember earlier when I mentioned that every menu item override connects to a page? Well, by creating pages and connecting menu item overrides to them, it allows us to control where those items appear in the menu. So let's create 3 new blank pages, and I'm going to name them Separator 1, Separator 2, and Separator 3. Now these will not be used as real pages on the site once we link them to menu item overrides. We're creating these pages to act strictly as column separators, but by creating those pages, I can place them where I need to within the pages menu, providing proper organization. So in my pages order here, I'm going to slide them up one by one to sit in between each of the categories so that they're separating dog toys, cat toys, nutrition, and medications. There we go. And we'll refresh the page again so the builder can pick up the page changes. Now, since we need to convert these from pages on the site to column separators, let's create 3 new menu item overrides. We'll click into our first one and link it to separator 1, and we'll set the item type to column separator. We'll do the same thing for number 2, linking to separator 2 page. And finally, number 3. Great. Now we'll preview. And we can now see that all of the columns are correct, and the medications column has more items than the others, but the manual control keeps the items contained in that column. Awesome. Let's add a few more elements to the menu now. Let's open the menu item override for the main products item. And let's add a subtitle to it down here. We'll enter "for your pets." And now let's add an icon that will appear next to products. As I mentioned earlier, we use Font Awesome for all of our fonts, so let's go to their font library. And we'll find a paw icon with a quick search here. And we can click on this free paw icon here. And now we just need the code for this, so we'll copy the HTML code that they give us right here, just like that. And we'll paste the code into the field here labeled Font Awesome 5 icon class. And we actually don't need the whole HTML, we only need the icon class. So we'll delete everything but that, leaving just FAS FA-paw. Now if we close out of the menu, we can see our subtitle and the icon for products. But I don't really like how the subtitle pushed the products item up and out of alignment with the other menu items. So I'll go into design and adjust that. We'll go to top level item styling, and then into content vertical alignment, and we'll set it to manual. And then we'll set item content top offset to a value with the slider. Now we can see that the content aligns, and we can now go back up here to set up margins and padding to fine-tune the spacing. As I said in the beginning of this video, this is a general overview. Our goal was to discuss the basic settings and break down the process of using menu item overrides to add and customize menu items. Now before closing, I want to mention a couple more tips for working with this widget. I think the most challenging aspect of this widget is understanding the menu item overrides and how they work with pages. But once you've worked with the widget a bit, the concept will feel a lot more natural, and you'll find that you can build complex menus quicker and quicker. The majority of your time will be spent creating new pages and new menu item overrides. So you're going to be back and forth between the widget options and the pages menu. And just remember to refresh whenever you make changes to the page orders. Now with complex menu builds, you're inevitably going to have to create several pages as menu elements that aren't normal pages on your site at all, such as our example of using the column separators. And you may end up with a lot of pages created to connect with the menu item overrides when building complex menus. Anytime you create a page like this, be sure to no index it so that Google doesn't try to index those pages. And to do this, just go to the Pages menu, open the settings for that page, and you can enable the no index option that you see right here. This is an important step, so make sure you do this for all menu items that aren't actual pages on your site, like column separators, headings, cards, social icons, and contact details. And if any item appears in the menu when you don't want it there, just remember that you can hide it in the menu by going to Page Options here, selecting Hide/Show in Navigation. Now, as you add pages, when creating menu items, the builder will usually take you to that page after you've created it. And if this is a problem, use the Page Selector drop-down in the top left to navigate back to the home page. Keep in mind that each menu item override has its own set of options that are unique from the other overrides and global menu configuration options. In our example today, we focused on the products dropdown, so we kept going back to that override to adjust it. But remember that it might be different with your menu build. You may work mainly in the global options or in several individual override options. Now, if you're wondering about mobile, it was not possible to build a widget that controlled both desktop and mobile mega menus at the same time. Mobile and desktop menus function differently in our builder, and therefore the widgets have to be constructed differently. Mobile instances of mega menu widget need to be built totally separate from the desktop versions. And we know this may not be ideal and will take time to set up again, but at the same time you may want to consider having a simplified menu for your mobile site. In many cases, it may be best to create a mega menu for your desktop layout and use the standard navigation menus for mobile and tablet. Now, you probably noticed that we didn't get deep into design settings in this video. The design area of this widget has tons of options, but we don't need to get into those because they're all pretty much labeled with their exact function and are pretty self-explanatory. But one thing you do want to keep in mind with the design settings, most of the settings apply to an entire group of menu elements such as headings, cards, or social items, and this actually makes styling go very quickly. And finally, jumping back to our demo page here, make sure to check out the other videos in this series. Those videos don't explain individual settings like we do in this video, but instead dive deep into recreating the actual mega menus found here on the demo. Thanks again as always for watching this, guys. Take your time with this one and have fun with it. Reach out to support if you run into any snags, and I will catch you guys in the next tutorial. Take care.